It was a summer evening in Seoul, humid, alive, and humming with the quiet desperation of a city chasing dreams. The rain hadn't stopped for hours, and the sky was still weeping softly over the empty sidewalks. Somewhere in the maze of trainee dorms and narrow rehearsal studios, a boy stood by the window, watching the water trace crooked paths down the glass. He was only 15. The city had not yet learned his name. The world had not yet heard his voice. But Jeon Jungkook was there, tired, aching, and questioning whether he had made the right choice leaving Busan behind. He missed the ocean, the scent of salt in the wind, the comfort of home. Seoul, for all its promises, felt like a storm that never cleared. That night, the dance practice had gone badly. He couldn't keep up. His moves were off, his voice cracked in rehearsals, and his heart, usually filled with silent determination, was suddenly overwhelmed by doubt. The older trainees were kind, but they had their own burdens. He felt like a shadow in their light. So he slipped outside, alone, and let the rain hide his tears. That was when it happened. The door to the studio creaked open, and someone stepped out into the downpour, without an umbrella. It was one of the vocal coaches, a quiet man who rarely spoke unless it was to correct pitch or posture. "You sing like someone who's trying not to cry," he said simply, not unkindly. "That's not a flaw." Jungkook looked up, startled. "It means you're already feeling the music. Don't run from that. Use it." That moment, small, unnoticed, not even 10 seconds long, planted something deep inside him. A quiet revelation. Singing wasn't about perfection. It was about honesty. About showing people your bruises and letting them listen anyway. From that night on, everything began to shift. Slowly, he started staying longer after practice, not to perfect his notes, but to feel them. He watched videos of artists who poured their souls into every line, studied how emotions could live in every breath. He began recording himself late at night, whispering verses into the silence just to hear what truth sounded like when no one was listening. One day, Jimin, his hung and future closest friend, overheard him. "Why do you sound sad when you sing happy songs?" Jimin asked, not accusing, curious. Jungkook shrugged, unsure of how to answer. But the question stuck. Years later, when Euphoria was released, fans around the world wrote things like, "It doesn't even matter if I understand the lyrics. Jungkook's voice makes me feel like I'm healing." At Jungkookseol, Twitter, "He sings like he's protecting something fragile." Comment on YouTube, 2018. They didn't know it, but that voice, the golden thread that wove comfort into chaos, had been born on a rainy night, under neon signs and thunderclouds, when a boy was told his tears weren't weakness, but music. And maybe that's why every time Jungkook sings, it feels like he's telling a secret you didn't know you needed to hear. By 2020, the world knew his name. When Dynamite hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, there were fireworks on stage. But if you looked closely at Jungkook, you'd see something quieter in his eyes. Not pride, not shock, but gratitude, and a little disbelief. Because somewhere in him, that boy who once cried in the rain was still watching. And when BTS stood on the Grammy stage, Korean men in tuxedos, in a room that once wouldn't open its doors to them, Jungkook didn't sing to impress. He sang to connect, to remind every dreamer watching that emotion transcends language. He sings like someone who's been broken and rebuilt with gold, one fan wrote after watching his solo stage. The Japanese have a word for that. Kintsugi. the art of mending broken pottery with gold, making it more beautiful for having been shattered. Jungkook is that kind of artist. Not spotless, not untouchable, but real. And as BTS began exploring solo paths, the world wondered, would the magic remain? In 2023, his solo single silenced the question. The voice was stronger, but the feeling was the same. Still vulnerable, still honest, and perhaps more than ever, his own. It's like he's finally singing the song he kept inside all this time. Fan comment on TikTok, 2023. His artistry was never just about hitting the right notes, it was about making them mean something. And through it all, Jungkook has never tried to be perfect. He's tried to be sincere. That's why millions still listen. Because in a world that often tells us to hide our softness, he dares to sing with his heart wide open. Because every time he steps on stage, he's still that boy from Busan, aching to be heard, learning to believe that his story matters. And it does. As the lights dim and the crowd roars, Jungkook takes the mic, not as an idol, but as a human being who chose not to give up on his voice. His journey is far from over. But the rain has stopped. And tonight, he sings not just for us, but for the boy who once stood in it. Message to all dreamers. Sometimes, the moment that changes your life isn't loud. It doesn't come with applause or cameras. Sometimes, it's quiet. It's someone telling you it's okay to feel. To be unsure. To keep going anyway. Maybe you're standing in your own storm right now, wondering if you'll ever be enough. Let Jungkook's story remind you, you already are. Not because you're flawless, but because you're real. And somewhere in your own voice, there's a truth the world needs to hear. Don't stop singing.